It's a pleasure having you on SaharaTv.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
It was a shock to a lot of people when they had you running for the Federal House of Representatives.
Yeah.
How's it been like?
How's it been like? Ah, man, it's been interesting. I said this the other day, that it's arguably, in a very short amount of time, the most difficult, most expensive, and most stressful journey I've ever embarked upon. But it's also the most fulfilling. It's also the most rewarding. I feel a sense of purpose. I feel a sense of I'm doing the best that I can at this stage in my life to impact my generation and to impact my community. I'm meeting people from the community, we're exchanging ideas. And I think that trumps any kind of stress or tediousness that we have to endure.
Fantastic. You were, prior to your announcing your candidature, you were seen with EIE,
Yes.
Two-Face,
Yes.
on voter education campaigns.
Yes.
What's it like? Tell us about those campaigns.
So for people who've kind of followed my trajectory over the last 10 years, these last 10 years of being relevant in the entertainment scene, I've also been very relevant on the scene for young people when it comes to protest. I mean, it started with Light Up Nigeria. I think that was as far back as 2009. We did Enough is Enough. We did Occupy Nigeria. We did Bring Back Our Girls. And so I've always been trying to use my platform and use my voice to speak for young people, to speak to young people, to say to our government that we need to pay attention to the issues that concern young people, but to say also to young people that part of the reason that we are in this place as a country is because we're complacent. It's because it's because of citizen apathy. It's because we don't care enough to get involved in the process. It's because we don't pay attention to what's going on. We've sat back and allowed a certain type of, or a certain crop of leaders to get in there, and we want to point fingers and accuse them or blame them for the job that they're doing, when none of us is really, or not enough of us are kind of stepping up, speaking out and getting involved in the system. And so for me, this was like the next step in that phase. So I spent a lot of years talking about our problems. Now I want to move from just talking about it to try to play my role, to play what I see as my part in being part of the solution, in fixing some of these problems.
A lot of people are actually concerned on the platform that you're running.
Yeah.
It's not the mainstream platform.
That's true.
How will you be able to do this? I mean, how will you?
When I decided to do this, I decided that for me, the most important thing to me, or one of the most important things to me, is my principles, my ideals, the vision, what it is that we believe in, what it is that we're standing up for. And to a certain extent, joining any of the powers that be would have handicapped that vision, because that would make us align with some people who we don't necessarily believe in, some people who we don't agree have the right set of ideas. And that's not something that I was willing to do. So yes, this is a more difficult road. Yes, this is a different way to approach it, and probably definitely a much more tedious way to approach this journey. But I think that it's a more worthwhile way because, and I'm sure you know this, the greatest voter constituency in the country, the people who actually have the power to sway any election from the presidency all the way down, are the people that don't show up, are the people that are frustrated by the system, are the people who are too tired or don't believe anything can work. You know, there were 90 million people registered for the last election, only 28 million took part. In my seat in Etiosa, there were 250-something thousand eligible voters, only 56K took part. So you have almost 200,000 people that could have swayed that election, my seat in the last election, any which way, but they chose not to take part in the process. So part of what we're trying to do with MDP is to create and build a new movement of young Nigerians who care again about the process of fixing Nigeria, but want to start at the level of the community. And that's why as a party, we're not involved in the presidential conversation, we're not involved in the governorship conversation, we're not even involved in the Senate at this point. What we believe is that we can start to fix Nigeria by fixing one community at a time. So we're using the 2 seats that we're running for in the House of Representatives, mine in Etiosa and our party chairman BK's seat in Ondo. Those are the only 2 seats that we're focusing on, because we want to use them as inspiration to the generation to say, guys, this is one way that we can start, and your community is within your reach. We're not even saying, we know that we don't have the strength to compete on a national level, but we know that in the community our voices are relevant, and we can speak to the businesses, we can speak to the people, we can speak to the constituents, we can speak to the people that are in our communities and say, okay, if we are really serious about changing Nigeria, then let us start here. Let us start to watch who we're putting in the House of Reps, who we're putting in the state houses of assembly. Let us start to ask questions of ourselves. Let us start to try and hold our leaders in our communities accountable. And that's why we're doing it the MDP way.
Oh, great. Now, let me take you up on that trajectory that you're actually pursuing. I mean, from the community and from the Federal House of Representatives. Earlier on, you talked about the fact that there's a general, a pervasive voter party among Nigerians.
Yes.
And, during your, the unveiling of your aspiration, you mentioned the fact that you may not have the money. Some say you don't have the money, you don't have the structure, you don't have a godfather. How are you going to be able to, take power away from the behemoths political party that have taken that country?
So I think that the first thing is understanding the power that we do have.
Because the reason why I say that, they have the money,
absolutely,
they have the structure,
absolutely,
and they have the so-called godfather,
absolutely,
and they've actually hand us in. So
absolutely.
how will you?
So the first thing is understanding the power that we do have. Right? So the power that we have as a generation is the power of our voice, is the power of media. I'll give you an example. You just mentioned my convention. I can pull up the numbers on my computer because I run a media agency. So we pulled up the report to see how many impressions did we make on the internet across the board from making that announcement. You know how many they were? 94 million impressions. This is off of spending next to nothing because somebody was kind enough to donate the hall. Somebody was kind enough to donate the live TV coverage. Somebody else donated the sound, stage, and lights. Somebody donated drinks. Somebody donated food. Of course, I had to spend a considerable amount of money myself, but nothing close to what we would have had to spend if we didn't have this vision and this message that our generation is buying into. Because of that, because of the power of that voice, you are able to create, because people are carrying the message for you. Right now, we have a couple thousand volunteers that have signed up on the site, and they're, literally every weekend that we're available, we're going door to door, taking this message to the community. Because again, we're not competing for all of Nigeria as MDP. We're just saying from Aja to Balende in Etiosa, can we talk to as many people as possible to inspire them to try and make a right decision, to try and do things differently. And we're using that as an example or a case study for the rest of the country, for the rest of our young people in this country to say, guys, if this can happen here, then it can happen anywhere. That's what this is about, is building a movement that come 2023 and beyond, we will start to see younger, credible candidates in our lawmaking bodies across the country, in the House of Reps, in the state houses of assembly, the local government chairman, the councillors, the people who are involved in the community. The community needs to be inspired to be part of that. This is what we're saying, and this is what we're trying to do. So it's the power, understanding the power of our voice, and understanding the power of the media, the social media, the younger generation, and how we can get messages to travel. In Nigeria, I think we have well over 100 million people that use smartphones. Yeah. So maybe I don't have the money to go into every single place that some of the powers that be can, but maybe I can say something or package something on a phone, and I can be in everybody's phones in my constituency. That's my plan. That's my plan, is to get into their phones. That's my plan, is to go door to door, to go to the grassroots every weekend. In the weekdays, we're visiting people in their offices. We're taking questions and answers. And people are starting to realize that, man, as a community, the community has the power to make these decisions. You don't have to go the way that it's always gone. That's not, first of all, that shouldn't even be an option anymore. We've got to get to the point in this country where in every position of government, we're evaluating people. We have 90-something political parties. It's a madhouse. It doesn't even make sense. I see a day where all of that starts condensing into 2 or 3 main ones over time. But until that point, right now, Nigeria needs to get to the place where we're looking at people, look at the person asking for the office, and decide if that is somebody that you want in that position. If that is somebody that you find credible, if that is somebody that you find a representative of the issues that best concern you. That's what we're saying. And until we get it right, may we become a one-term government country until we get it right. So if you vote somebody in and you're unhappy with them, government is not their birthright. Government does not belong to any particular family. Government does not belong to any particular godfather. Government is the will of the people. So if you don't like the leaders that you have in place, and I'm not just talking about the presidency, I'm talking about all the way across the board, in any elected position, if people do not like their representation, then vote them out and put somebody else in.
Great. Your campaign slogan, Hope 19.
Yes, sir.
From that, you're saying Honorable Akinloye Babajide, who currently occupies the seat, has performed way below expectation. He's a lawyer. You're a graduate of industrial engineering, but better known as an entertainer. What's your conviction that you could do something different from the status quo?
My conviction is that I think that I bring something to the table in the House of Representatives that nobody else does. So first of all, on my website, bankywellington.com, we talk about my legislative agenda. What we are saying in essence is that the things that make up my legislative agenda are things that I've been working on in a personal capacity for years. For instance, we talk about education. I have sent people on scholarships home and abroad. I just maybe didn't make as much noise about it because I didn't do it for the applause. I've adopted schools. I've donated equipment. I've sent kids on training. These are things that right now I'm working with a couple of companies to establish vocational training in the field of entertainment so that people can be empowered to be artists and engineers and producers. These are things that I've done in a personal capacity over the years. You don't all of a sudden, because you've gotten an office, become concerned about issues. It's not, if somebody says on their legislative agenda or something that these are the things that they want to do, they must have been showing signs of that, traits of that over the years, whether or not they got the office. So what we are saying in essence is that with me, I have been working on education in a personal capacity. I have been working on healthcare. I'm part of the Pinko Cancer Trust Fund. I've donated millions and raised millions for them, for people, because of my experience with cancer and the fact that I'm grateful that I was able to afford it. Most of the people in our country can't afford the very basic of medical bills. So in a personal capacity, these are things that I have been working on and I will continue to work on. So what we're saying is, let's weigh resumes. Let's look at the people that are requesting an office and say, okay, what has this guy done in healthcare or education or job creation or any of the things that candidates profess to be concerned about? Because you're not concerned about it the night before an election. You're concerned about it. If you were truly concerned about it, because things that really mean something to you, you would have been working in that field. I just finished a campaign right now, a week or so ago, with the European Union about gender-based violence. Gender equality is on my legislative agenda, but these are things that I've already been working on. We're raising awareness. We're now about to start working with the Mirabel Center about for victims of abuse. These are things that I've always been interested in, things that I've always tried to make an impact in a personal capacity. What I'm saying now is weigh me and my intentions and my behavior in these issues against the other people that are requesting the same seats, and then make an informed choice as to who you think will better represent those issues.
Now, back to the sentiments among people.
Yeah.
I mean, even from their community or from the constituency you're running, this we still talk about this voters' apathy.
Sure.
It's now there is a new rave in town, which is, I mean, the vote buying.
Vote buying, yes.
And it's becoming a hydra-headed monster as far as these elections is concerned. And there are concerns about that, even from international community.
Absolutely.
I mean, what will your party be doing in order to prevent such kind of thing, or to work against such kind of thing? Because, I mean, a lot of politicians are actually going to push money into the system.
Absolutely.
They're going to buy votes.
Absolutely.
So what will your party do differently? I mean,
so with us, it's really boils down to two things. One, the message and the vision that we have, but also the state of the country and the frustration in the country.
Right.
We're counting on the fact that Nigerians, the gig is up. They know what's going on. They're not fooled easily anymore. People, even the poorest among us, understand this game. They understand what's going on. They understand that every 4 years, a politician or a set of politicians comes along and gives them money, 5K or a bag of rice or a bag of gari, and says, okay, cast your vote here. And then that's the last time they see them until they come around 4 years later. But then 4 years later, they're looking at their lives and saying, man, where did this get me? This didn't do anything for me. My life now is more difficult than it was 4 years ago. And 4 years before that, it's the same story.
So Banky, sorry. So, are you saying that Nigerians are more conscious enough?
I'm hoping so. And what part of what we're doing is we're trying to educate people to say, guys, we can't do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So if we continue to say, I just go where my community, the politician came and gave the community 20K, and that's where I'm going to vote because I got 20K. Then don't complain about the state of the country. Don't complain that things are hard because you mortgaged the country and your piece of it by going that route. So what we're saying is that we're trying to educate people, trying to enlighten people, and hoping and counting that the frustration has gotten to the point where people are wiser about this process. And people understand that this thing has been a transaction all along. So they spend the money to buy the votes, and they go into the office and make that money back 1,000,000 times over and come back and buy the votes the next time. So at what point do we as a people understand that that's the game and that has to stop? And it really stops with each of us standing up and saying, man, for myself and the people that are closest to me, I will ensure that I am voting for people that I actually believe in, people that stand for the things that I believe in, people that stand for the issues that concern me. Not because I got some handout from somebody. We were on the campaign trail and I met somebody who now lives in Etiosa but lived in a different constituency prior to the last elections. And he said that the politicians came around, did what they did, shared money, did that, whatever. So they voted one way. And he said the only time that he saw this House of Reps member who they voted into office in his former constituency, the only time he saw him in 4 years was in the lobby of the Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja. It's the only time he saw him. This is supposed to be your representative in government. This is supposed to be the people who are not only writing the laws, but they're representing a community, they're representing a constituency. They're supposed to be giving you town halls. They're supposed to be running an active constituency office. They're supposed to be giving you reports to say, this is where we're at, this is what we're working on. But what do we really know our National Assembly for? It's for throwing chairs on television. You ask 100 young people today who their House of Reps member is. 90% of them probably don't even know. I ask all the time. They don't even know. So part of what we are accomplishing is just making our generation pay attention again. Because now that I'm running, people know that, oh, there's a House of Reps race and Banky W is part of it, and this guy and this guy and this guy. Okay, so now they're paying attention again. Whereas before, a House of Reps person will just ride the back of whatever governor or president, child candidate they have and put their posters up and just depend on the base to do what they do and to get into office. Now we have a situation where we are one of the new candidates that are contributing to changing the mindset, to making sure that our young people are paying attention to the process. Pay attention to these positions. Pay attention to the people that are supposed to be representing you and representing your community. These are the lawmakers that are in charge. Your House of Reps member should be capable of writing the Constitution. Essentially, that's what we're saying. The laws that govern society, it's the National Assembly, it's the House of Reps, it's the Senate that is supposed to be able to do that. We have a situation in Nigeria where a senator marries a 13-year-old girl and gets away with it. And then a couple years later, he marries another teenager. These are the people that we're putting in office. And that's what people need to understand. By sitting out of the process, by not voting, you are voting for things to remain the same. By not voting, you are essentially giving your vote and your voice to the people who you are complaining about. So as a country, the hope is that this time around, we don't sit out the process. This time around, we don't use it as another excuse to stay home. This time around, let's show up. People complain about rigging. What they don't understand is that when you stay home, that's the perfect scenario for rigging to occur. When you make an allotment for 10 people in this room to vote and one person shows up, you have just created the perfect scenario for anybody to come along and play with the numbers. So this time, let's make it difficult.
Well,
at least.
I quite agree with you on that. The fact is, you cannot say you're not going to actually talk on national issues, especially when it comes to national discuss. Let's ask this question: what bills will you be pushing if elected into the House of Representatives?
So the bills that I'm trying to push are bills that are focused on very specific areas. So we're talking about education and the fact that the schools that we have right now are not equipping our young people for to be functional, to be able to win in today's world. We have schools that don't have computers. Our curriculum in Nigeria needs to change. Our curriculum needs to be updated. Every secondary school in this country has to get to the point where there's a functional computer program where the basic skills of computing and coding and all of that is being taught, because that's where the world is going to. We're living in an information technology age. We are setting up this entire generation of young people that are in secondary school now, from primary school through secondary school, for failure because they don't have access to these things. You walk into schools now, you'll be lucky if you see books and functional desks and bathrooms, talk less of computers. So we want to focus on that. We want to push and champion bills that talk about the education and the curriculum. We want to push and champion bills that talk about vocational studies and technological training in our communities that allows our young people to have a chance at success. All we're saying is that we want to create a scenario that empowers this next generation. I told you right now, in a personal capacity, I'm working with companies to say, in my constituency, let us put in, I'm in the entertainment field, let us put in hubs that train producers and engineers and artists on the business, and so that they can understand what they're getting into, so that they can be empowered to make the right decisions. You know, one of my favorite sayings is, give a man a fish and you feed him for a meal. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. Let's teach our young people to fish. All our young people are looking for, and all they really need, is education and empowerment. You educate them in the field that they're interested in, and then you empower them to go ahead and get started. So in education, we're talking about that. In healthcare, we're talking about bills. We want to have a House of Representatives to be part of that team that makes healthcare accessible and affordable in Nigeria. I spoke earlier about my experience with cancer treatment, and that I'm grateful that I was able to afford it. But I know that the majority of the people in Nigeria don't have that luxury. That you have people that have a stage 1 cancer tumor and cannot afford that, and it quickly escalates into stage 2, 3, 4, and then they die because they couldn't afford to just remove a tumor when they found it. We need affordable and accessible healthcare. These are the things that our House of Representatives team needs to be focused on. These are the kinds of bills that we want to push. We're talking about job creation. We're talking about gender equality. And by the way, I want to circle back to my website. Please go to bankywellington.com. Allow me to do a shameless plug. Please, bankywellington.com. Click on the legislative agenda. You can read in detail what it is that we're focusing on. You can read our active constituency plans. I talk about the fact that we want to have a constituency office. I talk about the fact that our House of Reps right now, you can't point to that. You have people who are in the House of Reps, we just said it a few minutes ago, that disappear into Abuja and you see them only at election time. We talk about town halls, we talk about scholarships. I am still in the business of giving scholarships to people now in a personal capacity. With this office, I'll be able to do that on a grander scale. And what I want to say, and I think this is very important, is that all of these things that are on my agenda, the bills I want to push, the areas that I want to work on, all of these things are things that I have already been working on, and whether I get the seat or not, I will continue. And we need people that understand that it's not a do or die process. Number one, you should be working on it already in a personal capacity. Don't just show up at election time and say, oh, I care about education, or I care about healthcare, or I care about job creation, or whatever. This is something that you should have been doing, and this is something that you should intend to continue to do, whether or not you got the seat. These are the kinds of people that we need in office. People that understand that this is what's important. And that's the kind of person that I am, kind of person that I've always been, and the person that I will continue to be, whether I'm given the opportunity to serve in government or not.
Let's get your reaction on this. A couple of days back, some of your colleagues in the entertainment industry were at an event organized by the Buhari Support Organization. What's your take on that?
So for me, I think that politics and deciding who to support is a very personal decision. I think that everybody has to decide for themselves who they believe in, why they believe in that person, and whether or not they want to support that person. So for somebody who is sitting with a Buhari or sitting with an Atiku or sitting with Showore or anybody, it's a personal decision. And I'm not in the business of telling people to say, oh, these celebrities can't do this. What I'm trying to tell the community is that why does what a celebrity does determine what you do? Why does what a celebrity say? Yes, they're influencers. Yes, we enjoy their music and all of that, or their movies, or whatever it is that they do. But at the end of the day, each person in this country must decide for himself or herself, what is important to me? Why am I going to vote for somebody? Am I going to do it because I saw celebrities at a dinner with him? Or am I going to do it because I genuinely believe that this is the person that can represent my community or lead my country forward or whatever? That's the message. The message is, the problem with us is that as a society, we're always looking for who to blame. We're never really looking in the mirror. We're always saying, oh, it's the leaders, or it's the celebrity that was with the leaders, or it's this person, or it's that. But when you point a finger at somebody, the other fingers are pointed back at yourself. So let's look in the mirror again. Let's start saying, what have I decided to do? If that's what somebody else decides to do, fine. But what is it that's important to you? What are you doing in your personal capacity? We're talking about elections. If you know that you don't believe in the powers that be, then support the people that do represent the things that you believe in. Help them, donate, volunteer, put their posters up, put their artwork on your profile online, put their flyer on your gate or their sticker on your car. Help them get their message out. The country will change when the country decides that it wants to. When the country, the citizens, decide that they are all going to play an active part in fixing the country, then we will start to see the progress that we really seek.
In 2015, you supported Ambode.
Yes.
What changed? Was it because he lost?
For me, no. I supported him because in Lagos State, first of all, I came in around the time of Fashola, and I enjoyed Fashola as a governor. I thought that he did a fantastic job. And for me, it was, okay, this is the succession plan. If Fashola did a good job, and if they're all saying that this is the next guy, then, maybe he's the guy to support. So in wanting that progress that I was seeing in Lagos to continue, I said, okay, it makes sense for us to do that. But now I've decided that even that is not really an option for me. So I have decided that I no longer want to use my voice to support other people, because I don't really know what some people's intentions are. And I've done it before, at least on a Lagos State level. I've never supported somebody federally, but in Lagos State, I campaigned for Fashola and I campaigned for Ambode. But I've gotten to the point where that's no longer an option for me. I know what my intentions are. I know the work that I can do if given the chance. So I want to use my voice for myself, for my own vision, for my own mission.
Finally, because the time is almost up.
Yeah.
What's your advice for young people as 2019 elections approaches?
My advice for young people goes back to what I said before, which is that we can't afford to sit it out anymore. The greatest voter constituency in this country are the people that don't show up, are the people that are frustrated, the people that are tired, the people that don't believe in the system, the people who feel like their votes don't count, the people who just feel like anything is going to happen anyway. Rigging or vote stealing or all of that is going to happen anyway. That mindset is the very reason why we're here, because we sit out the process. So young people, this is no longer, especially if you have your PBC, this is no longer the time to sit out the process. look at the people running for office, from the presidency to your governor, to your senators, to your House of Reps, to your state houses of assembly. Look at it across the board and decide for yourself that who are the people that I believe in most, and who are the people that I feel deserve this seat, and give your vote to that person. Let's at least try to do that this time. Let's all show up, because we've never done it. So we know what apathy looks like. We know what those results are, because we've been doing that all along. The turnout is terrible, especially with young people. The voter turnout amongst young people is terrible in this country. So maybe for once, let's let this younger generation stand up to be counted. Let's use our voices. Let's show up. Let's stand up for our country. Let's all play a part. And for people who, whether you have your PVC or not, there are 1,000,001 candidates to choose from now across the country. Take a look. And if you see somebody that you believe in, help that person. Help that person get their message out. Help that person campaign. Help that person push. And let's see what happens. At least let's try that. And if we try that, I suspect things will be very different and things will be better.
Banky W, thank you very much for coming on that program.
Thank you, sir.